Hello, everybody. We're here on Lone Oak Farms for another episode. Welcome. I'm not even sure what episode we're on. All I know is I think we were in the middle of planting, so I need to keep that going here. So we'll send him on his way. AI vehicle extension will think about it a little bit, and we'll get him running. I think I have way more planter than what I need for the number of fields and acreage that I have, but that's all right. And just so everybody knows, in real life, they don't have a planter like this. They have a simple John Deere seeder. Or at least they did when I worked up there. Maybe it's something different now. While he's going here, I want to, I've tried to explore in some of these videos some areas of the farm, comparing them to real life pictures and whatnot, and I thought I would come over here to this barn. The red barn is such a stereotypical, typical American thing, if you will, that I don't know why they're painted red. I'm sure somebody somewhere knows the answer to that as to why red paint was chosen and why there's so many red barns. But I almost wonder if years ago if this wasn't even a different paint scheme. I can't even remember. It's been red as long as I can remember. Shaped kind of somewhat like this. And I guess what I wanted to show or share with everybody in today's video is to look at some pictures of it in real life, kind of more up close. So I'm going to leave the game. Let's see if I can go over to some pictures here. Oh, that's the editor. That's not what I meant. Here we go. So this is kind of a similar angle to this picture. And, I think in game, maybe I'll just go to the editor. This has the appearance more of a wooden building versus which indeed there is. There's wood in there, don't make no mistake, holding it all up. But the exterior is primarily metal, tin, or at least it is today. So like if we go back to, you can kind of see it. I mean, that's just tin work up there. Trying to see if they got it going across. For whatever reason, the style when they put this together was to have all the grooves in the metal kind of going sideways. I'm not sure why that is. I would have thought, and I know years before, I think the style was up and down. Maybe it just depends on whatever the whim is of the farmer. Yeah, they kind of have it that way in here too, going side to side. And there is some doors in here, but as you can see, it isn't quite the same as it is in real life. The door is actually in the middle. There's a window here. This inside here, and I don't know, I have a couple pictures inside, was an old horse stable. They have several stalls just right inside the door here. And this was the only entrance on this side. Now, I think in game, the doors are moved to here. And, well, let me just go look at it here. I'll pull it up in the editor again. So I think you can come through here with a tractor and you can exit here where you can feed the cattle kind of in here. If we take a look inside, yeah, you can go in this door. And that's a pretty cool adaptation of this building. There is or has been cattle fed out of this building in the past. But what I will say, it didn't take up the whole building. It's actually a multi-purpose building in a lot of ways, and it really served a lot of purposes. Oh, I guess here's there's a window. I guess it's kind of on the opposite side than it is in real life, which is just fine. Now, in the picture, as is so typical of barns, is there's a door up here, actually several doors. You could put hay in here. There's kind of a hay mow, and I believe you could jam some hay in over here. There was another nook. There's kind of a wall in here, if I recall correctly. So where the cattle would come in to feed tended to be down over here, or kind of maybe they would come in this door and there was an area for them to come in. This is over the top of them. And so you could stack some hay in there and then feed them out of that. You know, gravity's kind of helpful when you're feeding hay in the winter. And there's a lot of hay that would be put up in here. There's a bunker on this side here too. But years ago, like I say, there was an area for horses, but this also there wasn't so much hay stored in here. They had a grass seed cleaning facility kind of up here in the middle part, and I'll show that in a little bit. But they also had bins in here for bulk seed storage, and one of them was over here. For whatever reason, they called it the Cascade Room. I know as kids, they were no longer using this for seed storage. We would come in here and shoot hoops. They had a basketball hoop. Um, yeah, there was one Christmas I got a nail stuck in my foot in that room, which kind of killed playing of any basketball that particular night. So, or excuse me, it wasn't Christmas. I think it was spring break, close to spring. So yeah, jammed a rusty old nail into my foot, probably about, oh, it probably was at least half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Not something I ever want to repeat in my life. But, you know, in game, I do know, I'm pretty sure if you hop up here, these doors, well, shoot, let's just go try it. I almost think, like if let me just fly a little bit here. I'll get that. Let's go up a little bit. And if you, I'm not sure how you would get the truck up in here. I almost think, did I try this? R. Okay, well, maybe I'm mistaken on that. Maybe it's because it wasn't really set up that way. Well, I guess you could. You could bring in a load kind of down this road here, and you could offload some hay. I don't even know if it's got collisions on. It doesn't. So you could, in theory, store some hay up here and then kick it off to down below. But I don't know that the floor, like if I, oh, yep, I go right through the floor. Yeah, so probably to save game resources, they didn't even put collisions in the floor up there. So it's kind of just for decorative purposes. I almost thought I saw a message flash. Oh, yes. Now, how does... I have another series over on FarmSim 15. Surely I would think these mods would work so much better on 17. But apparently they don't. So we're going to just do this a little bit over here. We're seeding this whole thing, of course, to wheat. The rest of the farm we're leaving in grass. We're actually going to harvest a grass seed crop. So that part will at least have some basis in realism. I'm kind of looking forward to showing what that would look like. But first we got to get it all on the ground. So, alright, I'm a bit higher. Continue on. Hmm. You know, maybe what I'll do, in case I have to do that again, take my truck down to the barn, so I don't have to keep walking back to it as I tab around. How about that? Maybe I'll just park him in the grass here, so he's out of the way. We'll go over here. I'm just going to open the doors up. We don't have any cattle on this farm yet. Maybe at some point we will. They fed a few beef cattle out of here back in the day, and they always seemed to have a couple milk cows around, which I think was handy to the large family that was raised on this farm. And I don't know if you remember from I can't remember if I mentioned it. Like I say, I don't have any master plan on these episodes, but wow, listen to those birds. Oh, I so enjoy those that were put into the map by Kim G, or he gave it to me to put into the map. Very cool. Local birds. But anyway, there was 14 children raised on this farm, so they always had a milk cow or two. I remember as a kid coming up here, there'd be a milk cow in the barn. So let me go back to the pictures here. Oops, that isn't the picture. Um, get in here. So I think if I go ahead, that's the shop building, which we'll come back to. That's the, well, looks like I got a couple. That's a front picture. I am not a photographer. It appears the sun must have been directly behind the apex of the roof line. So it looks dark. It really wasn't. That's the front of the shop. So, if I go back in game, that would be around this side. It's interesting they have the it looks like hitching rails there, minus the rail. I'm trying to think in real life, is that what was there posts? I guess I missed that. Well, I'll be look at that. Props for realism. There are several posts there. The thing of it is, I have no idea why they're there, because what I remember years ago is a couple posts and they were connected by a rail. So you'd have horses out here and you could, tie them up to the rail so they didn't move on you. This is where they would, and my grandfather in his later years had a couple Percheron horses that he had. He always wanted to do a little work the old way, kind of how we started farming years ago. So he had a couple of the big draft horses, with their hooves as big as pie plates. I think I got pictures of them somewheres. So they would, the farrier would come out, and this is kind of where they would do the work on them out here. He also had a buggy, kind of a buckboard arrangement. He had a sled, several things that could be pulled by the horses. So there was a lot of horse activity that took place out here. But I didn't know it had been reduced to posts. And I'm not sure what the reason for that is. But that's all right. Lots of things I don't know. Anyway, here's the front of the building. I was just going to look at it kind of from this angle. There is a door on the side of it. Does that open? We'll see if it opens. Nope. Oh, it does open. There we go. So this is, I better keep this door shut. This one just opens right into the animals. Um, this here, I believe, was just a separate storage area. Ah, there's a tank we got in there. I didn't even know we had that. Yeah, so again, we'll kind of zoom out here because I'm getting beside the other. Go back to the picture. There's a couple doors in here. There's one here, and I believe there's one here you can't see very well. I almost think there was a second one over here too. It's sliding doors, of course. Once again, there was bulk seed could be stored in here. There was used to be all kinds of seed stored in here. For realism, they put in the electrical panels here. You can see in there. But in here is kind of a workshop. They turned it into a workshop years ago. They had hogs in there. But let me see if I took some pictures inside. Okay, so this door, there's a door kind of right here. This is looking in that door. I mean, there's an old workbench and what have you. It's just an old building, heavily built, because it once stored wheat and grass and all that stuff. So it was built to last, but they don't really use it much anymore, except for storage and shop type activities, ancillary, if you will. There's a stairwell that goes up to the haymow. This door goes into a tack room, I believe, where they kept all their saddles and leather stuff for the horses and whatnot. Let me see if I went inside. I'll just show you the insides of this. Oh yeah, I got one up here in the haymow. I'm trying to, well, you can see where the slope of the roof is. So one area in there, and there's several areas inside where hay can be stored, small bales for feeding out a few animals. Maybe I'll go back in game. Let me make sure my tractor is behaving itself. And it is. I think I can be forgiven for being a little distrustful, right? Because it seems like you turn your back and the thing is just ready to not do what you wanted it to do. So Back looking at this, I'll return to my pictures. This is upstairs. This is in the main Hamau part, if you will. So it would be kind of, if we're looking at this, it would be up in this area right in here. In real life, this door, I think, well, does it open to the back? Maybe it opens into the main Hamau. I can't remember if it opens more on the side area. Maybe it's in the main Hamau. But this picture is kind of right in this area. This is where they used to have a grass seed cleaner. And this is a picture of a type of cleaner. And this is a small one. I think it's a Crippen machine, Crippen model. There are several screens in here. There would be. Yeah, I guess I can see the edge of one there. And so there's kind of a hopper setup here. I don't think this is a setup they had years ago. I actually think this is probably cleaning something else. I don't know that it's for seed. It's probably for maybe a little bit of side wheat or oats that they have. They want to clean up a little. I just don't know. They've occasionally grown some flour wheat and they've turned it into flour. So you want to make sure that's clean. So they would run it through this machine. There's something up in here that would blow air on it to pull off chaff. It would go through a series of screens, and then the clean stuff generally would drop out the bottom. And see, this is upstairs in the haymow, and so the clean stuff I think went through the floor, and then they would bag it up downstairs. That's kind of what they did back in the day. Something interesting to note here too, and this is how they did it back in the day. You know, wheat, if you store it, or even grass, is very heavy stuff. I believe these are 2x6s, end or flat on the flat, one over the top of the other, nailed together. So it must have been painstakingly slow to build this whole wall in here. And this is a beam that I think it's on the other side of it. To have a strong enough wall so that when you filled it full of wheat, it didn't bulge it out or knock your wall over. I think if you would have put all these boards kind of on edge, it wouldn't have been near strong enough to hold it. So this is very common to see in the area as to how they would put together how they would put together a grain bin in some of these old barns. So that's kind of what an old grassy cleaner looks like. Looks like they have it still set up upstairs in there. Let me see if there's any more. Oh yeah, I'm looking at another way. So this, okay, I'm kind of seeing there's the hopper right here. If I go to the next picture, is right over here. So that cleaning machine is down there. So this is looking north, I believe. There would be an old grain bin on the other side of this. A catwalk, you could walk across it up here, or there used to be. Looks like they got it boarded off. Um, and this is an elevator. This is the old style bucket elevator. So there's this big pulley. Well, it looks like a pulley. This belt that goes up and around this up here, and it has all these cups, and it would be turning this way, clockwise, and the cups would dump out whatever they had kind of into this pipe. So I assume the material would come in at the underneath and the floor below, and they would bring it up here. That's how they would get it all into the hopper and let gravity do its work. So this is all up in that old barn. Here's the beam kind of coming across in the middle. Kind of a pain to stack hay around, but it is what it is. This is down on a lower level in, let me go back to in game here. This would be over in this area right here. Kind of in this area over here where they have this tank stored. That's what this is now. You'll see kind of from this ramp coming down, maybe you can't tell, there used to be a trench in here. There was cattle that came into here from outside the barn. This is where, as a kid, I would sit right here and watch my uncles milk a cow that would stand right here. They had stanchions set up, and he would just milk it by hand, old school style. So there used to be, actually, I put the No, no, no. Here it is. Here it is. I was mistaken. There wasn't a trench up here. It was back here. You can tell it's been filled in with concrete. So years ago, the cow would be sitting there, and while you're milking her and she's feeding and whatnot, well, of course, she would do her business, and it would land in the trench, and this, would help you with your manure handling. But in later years, this was a workshop for my grandfather. He's now passed away, but he had all kinds of projects he did in here on some of his old machinery. Let's see. This must be. Okay, this is on. If you go through, and I'm standing right by a door here where I took this picture. I think they had a sheep back here, maybe for one of the kids to show at the fair. But on the other side of this wall, it appears at the moment they're feeding a couple calves in there, I believe. So they've modified it further. Like I say, years ago, there was hogs over here. So now they got some cows in there. All depends. Multi-purpose barn. All depends on how they wanted to use it at any particular time. I think this is another picture just at a different angle. The workshop is kind of over here. That's the sheep pen over there. And again, we're all looking at this section of the barn here, kind of where the tank is sitting. So there's a lot going on in there even still for an old building. Yeah, then it heads outside. So I don't know if that was of interest to anybody. Just wanted to kind of show the inside of an old barn that has kind of been repurposed, I guess, um, but is still of use, even though it was put up and used probably more heavily, many, many years ago. Um, just one of those investments that stands, and the farm can still make use of it even these years later. I even look at this even in game here, and there's a number of memories that come back. I don't know why this comes to mind at the moment. Kind of like I showed in real life, the door is kind of in the center of the building more here. There was one time, one of my brothers and I don't know what we were doing up here. We had the farm truck backed up to, and when I say farm truck, I think I showed a picture of one of them last time, like this here. This is what I mean by the farm truck. It wasn't this particular truck. It was another one very similar to it, although much more beat up than this one is here. This was their nicer of the two that they had while we were up there. So anyway, picture a truck like this, backed up, perpendicular to this building. I don't know what we were doing in there, but my brother and I were working under the truck, and at some point, for some reason, oh, our helper stopped. I think he's on strike. I tell you what, this is just disheartening. Is there some still over here I gotta get? I can't really tell if he... Nope, he didn't finish a job, so we're gonna have to go do it. But right at that spot, my brother stood up under the truck. I mean, have you ever done that before? Where you're under something that has all kinds of sharp objects, hard objects on the ceiling, but you forget where you are, and you think you can just stand up, and when you do, you quickly learn that you're underneath something once again. He stood up just like any of us would, bounced straight up kind of, and wham, right into the bed of the truck. And I think it basically knocked him out. I mean, he was knocked senseless, and I think he hit a cross beam under the truck bed. It had kind of a sharp edge on it, so he was bleeding on his head. And, this was my third brother. I was the oldest in the family. He was number 3. I kind of panicked because, I'm not going to say I'm squeamish when I see the sight of blood, but anybody bleeding from the head, I mean, that's got to be serious, right? So at the time, all I could think to do was pick him up and run him to the house. So so it was kind of if you look at this, hauling him from here and just kind of sprinting up towards the house as hard as I could. He was kind of dead weight and didn't help me. My grandmother, who was an ex-nurse, I basically left him there. I think she literally put stitches in his head to kind of tie it back up. He split it pretty good in there. I was just glad she could take care of him, and I didn't have to hold him down while she worked on him. So I have no idea what she had to do to help him out. But that's what I mean. Sometimes, when Bullet Bill created a map like this, I can't help but when I go around in here, there's just memories, that come to mind. Whether it's the horses that were in here and kind of remembering what that era was like, and remembering my grandfather and my brother getting hurt there, and and out back here, I think I mentioned that as a haymow up there. Well, periodically we would back the truck up there, and it must have been. Let me look at the picture again. I almost wonder if no, not that picture. We'll have to back up a little bit. Back to here. I can't really see very well there. I think there is room in here to back up a truck. And what I'm looking for, I'm not really seeing. But it was something stupid I did. You can see, and I'll just prove it here now with why I wasn't thinking. Last video, I kind of mentioned how they did their hay. It was these small bales. You can see how it's being stacked on here, right? They would attempt, and these bales are all stacked on top of each other. And part of that's on purpose. They can only stack at one width. I think if you're stacking it by hand, you could get an extra bale width on there, but to be efficient with the machinery and whatnot, we just acted two bales wide. Well, these are all stacked on top of each other. And I think occasionally they would turn one of these squares a different way on the back, but the way they would then tie the load down is, you'd hook it on the front, probably on this, I don't recall, or maybe one of these on the ladder going up, and it would be a block and tackle kind of up on top that would pull it from this direction and from up at the rear. And it was handy when we're unloading it to have all these bales kind of facing the way it was. So we all knew that's what the way they had it set up. So you knew that when you were on top of here, especially you had to be careful when you went over the back end, because a lot of times it wasn't totally tied together the best, and we all knew that. So when we backed a truck like this up to the barn to enter up, well, I went up top and I took apart the block and tackle, started getting the ropes off, and then like a ditzel, I walked to the back end of the truck, and it fell down. The bales, they weren't tied together. I don't think they'd even tied a single pad on that one. I just went straight to the ground. And what I was looking for in this other picture is I remember falling down right in some dirt. I could have so easily have hit the foundation, and there was a pipe sticking up out of the ground. I missed it. There were so many instances on the farm, and I'm thankful to God that I was just lucky that He protected me, kept me from getting injured. And don't get me wrong, there were times I did get injured. There's so many things that can go wrong on the farm, and here, like I say, I fell off the back of a truck. The top of the stack, the truck bed probably comes up here. The top of the stack was probably up in here, so I don't know what that is. No more than maybe a 10-foot fall, but still, I could have really hurt myself. But I didn't. I got up, dusted off, and went back up there and was more careful then as we unloaded the truck. But, I'm just thankful, and it appears they've removed the pipe. You know, anytime an accident happens, and maybe what happened to me was a catalyst for getting that pipe out of there. I don't know what that pipe was doing. I'm just glad I didn't land on it and impale myself. and give myself another hole. I got enough holes already. So, so again, even a map like this, it's just memories that come back, going around here. So, and in real life, I think I mentioned this on another video. In real life, the road to the pond actually goes behind the building rather than in front of it, like Bullet Bill had to do it here. He and I talked about that, and it just worked better for him to do it that way. And I think it had to do with the size of the buildings relative to the scale of the map. The underlying map real estate is scaled to reality, whereas the buildings are all one-to-one, if you will. So he had to be a little creative how he fit some things in here. But let me go check on our heater. Looks like he's doing his job. So, oh, well, look at that. He ran out. You know how fortuitous. Alright, I'm going to go fill him up, or at least fill up part way. Maybe I should check the map and see how much. Yeah, that's not very much at all, so I'm not going to put too much in there. Helper M. Stopped work unexpectedly. Tank is empty. Is there a way to name the helpers? I don't seem to remember. Maybe it was a mod or something where... Maybe I'll have to write a script for that at some point. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be that hard to find the table, and I could give them some real names. I could put my name in there, and the name of my cousins, and we could be working again together on Lone Oak. That's probably enough seed. No sense depleting. Well, that's helpful. That it allows you at least to go negative. If you're desperate to plant the field so you can earn a little bit more money, that's kind of a necessity that they let you go negative. Oh, there I just ran over the dog. Oh my goodness. That brings up another memory. There were dogs occasionally run over, which was tragic. Although I would say on a farm, the dog as a pet is a little bit different in a lot of cases than probably what most people think of as pets. Farm dogs, oh wait, oops, that's right, we ended up here, tend to be a bit hardier breed or have to fend more for themselves versus, a town dog, if I can just put it that way. Hopefully everybody knows what I mean. There's heavy equipment going around all over the place, and when you're busy farming and everything, you're not always just watching to see if the dog is in the way or what have you, and hopefully he isn't, but the dogs basically get used to it, and they have to, keep out of the way kind of on their own. If we had to watch for them all the time, I think we'd go batty. But I don't remember a dog getting run over particularly, although I know it happened. I wasn't there when it happened. But I do remember they had a dog. It was named Dexter, and this happened in the grass seed cleaner. And I'll show pictures of that, I think, at some point in a later video. But poor Dexter had a bad day. I think it was raining outside, and the operator of the grass seed cleaner was in and out of the building with the forklift. And there was a lot of water dragged in. It was slicker than snot, inside on the concrete floor. He was hauling seed in and out, kind of moving some things around. Well, poor Dexter got himself inside the area where the guy was coming in with a stack of seed. And sometimes you would carry 2 pallets of seed at a time on the forklift. And so The guy comes roaming in on the forklift. He doesn't even see the dog. The dog didn't even so much as yip. He went in and basically drove the dog right into the pile of seed and just crushed him to death. The operator never saw him, never heard him. The dog didn't even yip as he was crunched, just nothing. And it wasn't until much later, obviously at some point, the dog started to decay. And so they wonder what the Sam Hill, is that smell from inside the warehouse, but they didn't know. I mean, occasionally there'd be rats and mice in there and they trapped for those. And so I don't know if they figured it was just a dead rodent, but it wasn't until they literally cleaned out that row of seed and were shipping it, I believe, that they learned, that's where their dog went. And, they also at the same time, they wondered where their dog went. They couldn't figure out if he'd ran off. See, none of these dogs were on leashes. They weren't tied up as a general rule. They roamed the farm free. And they'd had that happen before. A dog would disappear for a while and it would show back up. I mean, that's just kind of par for the course. So they figured he'd show back up. Well, he never did. And I think they assumed he ran off. Well, no, the poor guy was kind of crunched to death in there. So, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes these things happen on the farm, and, that's how they lost Dexter. I think that dog was a little bit, well, no, it wasn't. I guess in the 8th grade when I worked up there in the cleaner, I guess he was up there then. There was a number of dogs they had up there over the years, but maybe more on that later. I'm sure I have some pictures in my archive of the dogs. But I think I'm over a half hour here now. I think we'll call the video there. Thanks for watching, taking your time to watch this, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.